Good evening and welcome. Tonight, we're taking a hard look at the most dangerous corners of our world. These are the places where conflict, instability, and violence are tragically woven into the fabric of daily life. Our list of the top 10 most unsafe countries is based on a synthesis of reports from leading organizations like the Global Peace Index and the U.S. Department of State. These rankings consider a complex web of factors, from political turmoil and terrorism to crime rates and humanitarian crises. The countries we'll be looking at tonight are not just statistics. They are places where real people are struggling to survive, often caught in the crossfire of forces beyond their control. Let's begin. Afghanistan grapples with the devastating legacy of decades of conflict. Since the Taliban's return in 2021, security has sharply declined, with frequent attacks on civilians. The Taliban's rule has brutally targeted women and girls, stripping them of their freedoms. The humanitarian situation is catastrophic, with millions on the brink of starvation. The international community grapples with engaging the Taliban, while Afghans navigate a harrowing reality.
Beyond the headlines, remember the Afghan people. Their resilience is a testament to the human spirit.
Syria, once a land of vibrant culture and history, enters its second decade of a brutal civil war. Sparked by the Arab Spring, the conflict has become a complex web of proxy wars. The Assad regime, backed by Russia and Iran, clings to power. The human cost is almost impossible to comprehend, entire cities reduced to rubble.
Amidst the ruins, hope flickers. Syrians strive to rebuild their lives.
South Sudan, the world's youngest nation, remains trapped in a cycle of violence and instability. Born out of hope, the country has been plagued by civil war since 2013. The conflict, fueled by ethnic tensions and a power struggle within the government, has resulted in a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Millions have been displaced, with many fleeing to neighboring countries. The stories emerging from South Sudan are heartbreaking. Famine stalks the land, children bear the brunt of the violence, and the cycle of revenge killings continues unabated. The international community has struggled to find a lasting solution, with peace agreements repeatedly broken.
Despite the immense challenges, there are glimmers of hope. Grassroots organizations are working tirelessly to provide aid and support to those affected by the conflict. The resilience of the South Sudanese people, their determination to create a better future for their children, is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope endures.
Chapter 4. Iraq. Scars of war run deep. Iraq, a nation synonymous with conflict, continues to grapple with the legacy of war and the ever-present threat of terrorism.
While the defeat of ISIS marked a turning point, the group's ideology continues to pose a threat, with sporadic attacks serving as a grim reminder of the fragility of peace.
The country is plagued by political instability, corruption, and a lack of basic services, leaving many Iraqis disillusioned and desperate.
The scars of war run deep, etched into the landscape and the psyche of its people.
Yet amidst the ruins, there are signs of resilience.
Iraqis are rebuilding their lives, brick by brick, determined to reclaim their future.
The international community must remain engaged, supporting Iraq's reconstruction and fostering a lasting peace.
The road ahead is long and arduous, but the Iraqi people deserve a chance to heal and prosper.
Chapter 5. Yemen, a forgotten war, a humanitarian catastrophe. Yemen, often referred to as the Forgotten War, continues to be ravaged by a conflict that has pushed the nation to the brink of collapse. The civil war, which began in 2014, pits the Yemeni government, backed by a Saudi-led coalition, against Houthi rebels aligned with Iran. The conflict has created one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, with millions facing starvation and disease. The UN has described the situation as the largest humanitarian crisis in the world. The bombing of hospitals, schools, and civilian targets has drawn international condemnation, yet the violence continues unabated. The world must not turn a blind eye to the suffering in Yemen. A ceasefire is urgently needed, followed by a political solution that addresses the root causes of the conflict. The people of Yemen deserve peace, justice, and a chance to rebuild their shattered lives. Chapter 6. Somalia. terror in the Horn of Africa. Somalia, located in the Horn of Africa, remains a nation grappling with the threat of terrorism, political instability, and a dire humanitarian crisis. Al-Shabaab, an al-Qaeda-affiliated terrorist group, continues to control large swaths of the country, launching frequent and deadly attacks. The group's reign of terror has had a devastating impact on Somali civilians, who bear the brunt of the violence. The humanitarian situation is dire, with millions facing food insecurity and displacement. Despite these challenges, there are glimmers of hope. The Somali government, with the support of the international community, is making strides in combating terrorism and rebuilding the nation. However, lasting peace and stability in Somalia will require a multifaceted approach that addresses the root causes of conflict, including poverty, corruption, and lack of opportunity. The international community must remain committed to supporting Somalia's journey towards peace and prosperity. Chapter 7. Central African Republic, a nation held hostage by violence. The Central African Republic, a nation rich in resources but plagued by poverty and instability, remains mired in a humanitarian crisis fueled by a brutal civil war. The conflict, which began in 2013, has been characterized by horrific violence, with armed groups vying for control of the country's wealth. Civilians are caught in the crossfire, subjected to unspeakable atrocities, including mass killings, sexual violence, and forced displacement. The humanitarian situation is dire, with millions in need of food, water, and medical care. The UN has warned of a forgotten crisis unfolding in the heart of Africa. The international community must step up its efforts to protect civilians, provide humanitarian assistance, and support a lasting peace process. The people of the Central African Republic deserve a chance to live in peace and dignity. Chapter 8. Libya, once a beacon of hope in the Arab Spring, remains trapped in a cycle of violence and political turmoil. The country has been plagued by civil war since the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, with rival governments vying for control. The presence of militias, extremist groups, and foreign powers has further complicated the situation, turning Libya into a battleground for proxy wars. The humanitarian cost of the conflict is staggering, with thousands killed, displaced, and subjected to human rights abuses. The international community has struggled to find a lasting solution, with peace talks repeatedly collapsing. A unified government, respect for human rights, and a commitment to dialogue are essential for Libya to emerge from the shadows of conflict. Chapter 9. Sudan, a nation in transition, faces a precarious future as it grapples with the legacy of dictatorship, economic hardship, and ongoing conflict. The overthrow of Omar al-Bashir in 2019 raised hopes for a democratic future, but the transition has been marred by political instability and violence. Armed clashes between the military and civilian groups have resulted in numerous casualties and hampered efforts to address the country's pressing challenges. The humanitarian situation remains dire, with millions facing food insecurity and displacement. The international community must support Sudan's transition to democracy, provide humanitarian assistance, and encourage dialogue to resolve the ongoing conflicts. The Sudanese people deserve a peaceful and prosperous future.
Chapter 10. Venezuela, once a prosperous nation, is now grappling with an unprecedented crisis that has left its people facing hunger, hyperinflation, and political repression. The country's economic collapse, fueled by corruption and mismanagement, has led to widespread shortages of food, medicine, and basic necessities. The political climate is tense, with President Nicolas Maduro's government accused of human rights abuses and cracking down on dissent. Millions of Venezuelans have fled the country, seeking refuge in neighboring nations, creating a regional humanitarian crisis. The international community has responded with sanctions and humanitarian aid, but a lasting solution requires a political resolution to the crisis. The Venezuelan people deserve a chance to rebuild their lives and their nation.
The countries we've explored tonight paint a stark picture of the challenges facing our world. Conflict, instability, and violence continue to plague too many corners of the globe, leaving behind a trail of human suffering. But amidst the darkness, there are flickers of hope, the resilience of the human spirit, the tireless work of humanitarian organizations, and the pursuit of peace by courageous individuals offer a glimmer of light. It's our responsibility to stay informed, to bear witness to these crises, and to demand action from our leaders. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content.